You can't get into great shows without great photography. Today we're talking picture taking on Striking Steel. I'm Eric Wolsing and this is Striking Steel. Now, if you've seen the rest of our video series about show applications, you've heard me talk about the importance of photography when you are applying to a juried show. Photography, it's very important when you're basing your entire application on 4 to 5 images and plus a booth shot. Those photos almost have to be every bit as artistic as the work you make itself. I can't stress this enough. When I went to my first mock jury, I was blown away by the amount of emphasis placed on the artistic quality of each of my shots. It really opened my eyes, and it definitely helped when I took that feedback to heart to improve our photography. Getting into shows for us, juried shows, got a lot easier when our photography got better. Now, as you get out there, you have a couple of options. The first option is to inquire about a professional photographer. If you get into the art community, you will find that there are photographers out there who specialize in taking photos of your pieces. And if you're not wanting to invest in camera equipment and gear in order to take these kind of photos yourself, that is definitely an avenue you might want to pursue. For us, we ended up investing in our own photography setup. The reason we did that is because our pieces have changed quite a bit over the years and they continue to change. We are always coming up with new pieces, new takes on existing pieces. In essence, we need to be taking photographs all the time, whether it's for our Etsy store or for our show application process. Welcome to the garage, or as I like to call it, my photography studio and shipping department. Here is where I like to do all my photography. Now, I use the garage because here, with a flip of the switch, I can turn off all the lights. There are no windows, no source of natural light from the outside, which means I can completely control the light levels on the pieces. And I do that via these soft boxes. Soft boxes create a nice diffuse light, and right in that temperature range that you'd like to have. It's a natural light range around 5,000 Kelvin. To illuminate the pieces. Now what this does for you, when you position the softbox so that the furthest most edge is in line with your pieces, you get this nice front illumination that you see here while getting progressively darker as you go up the backdrop. This is what provides that nice gradient that juries often look for in your photography. Now, sometimes, depending on the piece or how you've got things arranged, it's not possible to get that perfect gradient all at once. Sometimes I use a specific backdrop that has a gradient that goes from white to black all the way up. Problem with that is it can get wrinkly sometimes, and the paper, I can just roll off new paper and cut off the wrinkly portions, and I don't have to worry about putting it in the dryer or ironing it to get rid of the wrinkles. Wrinkles in your backdrops are very distracting. What you see here is very typical of our photography setup, especially for what we call our shelf-sitting pieces or our more three-dimensional sculpture, like these flowers here. This is a little half-size card table about bar top height, a white roll of photography paper as I've described, links for that down below. The stand holding it up is very inexpensive. It's just a couple of very light stands with a bar across the top that goes through the roll of paper, allowing you some support. Oftentimes you'll see these kits sold with fabric backdrops, sometimes green or blue if you're going to do any chroma keying, oftentimes white and black. For the illumination, we're using the soft boxes. Now, I got most of this set up. The soft boxes, this one and the one here behind me that I'm currently not using, and the stands all came together as a kit. Very inexpensive. I think when I ended up buying it a few years ago, I only spent like $150, and I'm pretty sure you can find them even cheaper now. I'll provide some links for those. All in all, this setup is really not magic. Yeah, I spent some money on some photography stuff, but you don't have to. This is just a roll of paper. The roll of of paper runs anywhere between $35 and $45 depending on your dimensions and where you buy it from. The bar is just a simple pipe. You could use anything from PVC to electrical conduit to black iron pipe if that's what you have. Go wild. Necessity is the mother of all inventions, and you don't have to spend a lot of money creating a setup that will allow you to get some pretty good results. Now, where I do recommend you spend a little bit of money is on the soft boxes. I tried for years doing different things to get diffuse light. Anything between floodlights with some color to, just inexpensive lighting fixtures aimed every which way, and it wasn't working. You throwing too many shadows, the light was too harsh. After working with a photographer friend, I realized that I was throwing too much light. Having a single softbox or sometimes a series of softboxes at differing angles depending on your piece, you get a much more consistent lighting regime. The softboxes themselves vary in size. For our small pieces, I generally use this size. They are 16 inches by about 24 inches, give or take. I have a slightly larger one here I'm using to illuminate my face right now. I also have one, not pictured, that's as large as me. It's 6 feet tall by about 4 feet wide. I use that particular softbox for a much larger wall hanging pieces because I can illuminate the entire piece at once and get a nice even lighting on the piece before I take the photograph. Very important. Photography is all about the lighting. Now then, when it comes to lighting your piece, you're going to have to play around. Our pieces being more three-dimensional, I find I aim the softbox at a slide angle, 45 more or less, actually, 45 or less, off to one side to light the piece. Now, working in metal, we get a lot of reflections. And that's something you're going to have to work through. I at one time helped another artist who was dealing in ceramics that have very high gloss finish on her pieces. And the amount of glare coming off the gloss made getting good photographs really tricky. So you definitely have to adapt. Reach out to other photographers, other people in the community, and they will probably be more than willing to share some of their tips and tricks with you. Now, as you get into taking your own photographs, it's really tempting to just chase the newest, greatest set of gear out there. But if you talk to professional photographers, they will oftentimes tell you stories about how newbie photographers get really bad cases of GAS, G-A-S, Gear Acquisition Syndrome. I fell prey to this myself. Early on, I was thinking, oh, this gadget here, or this camera body, or this lens will let me finally take that perfect picture. When what I was really missing out on was how to properly light my pieces. After talking to a photographer, him giving me some pointers and showing me the ropes a little bit, I landed on this softbox technique and it works really well. Now, with three-dimensional pieces such as these, oftentimes you can't get photographs such that you get light filling in the portions on, say, like this calla lily here. I've got dark spots in this particular bloom and this right here. So it becomes necessary to light that somehow. You can do that with something called a reflector. Now, the first thing I did was to go out and buy a reflector. It's a little big. Now, I'm doing this myself, and I don't have but 2 hands. This doesn't work. I have a stand that if I have, say, for instance, a larger wall piece and I'm going to have a consistent reflection, I can mount this thing and it works, but by and large, I wasted my money. So what I do now is use this little guy. This is a reflector. I made it very, very cheaply. It's a piece of foam core on which I taped aluminum foil. That's it, just aluminum foil. I took a little sheet of aluminum foil, wadded it up a little bit, straightened it out, taped it to the foam core, and now I have something lightweight and inexpensive that I can reflect light upon my pieces. And you can probably see how just this simple tool, simple and inexpensive, allows you to get the kind of lighting on the piece that you'd like to have. You're starting to fill in some of these dark areas on the blooms, for instance. Sometimes you have to go the opposite way. Sometimes you need to create some shadows. Again, that same piece of foam core, just without the aluminum, will allow you to shadow the piece. Between these two, piece of foam core and a foam core with aluminum, you can really add to the illumination on the piece, get some reflections, take glare in and out of the piece. Works really well, super inexpensive, less than 20 bucks. This, way more than 20 bucks. So don't fall prey to the gear acquisition syndrome. If you're getting started in photography and trying to take pictures of your pieces, it's really tempting to start with a setup and stick with it for all your pieces. If your pieces are all similarly shaped, it's okay to do that. If your pieces are like ours, however, where you do everything from Christmas ornaments all the way up to three-dimensional steel wreaths, it's good to have a different setup for each piece. Remember, the goal is to make each piece look as brilliant as possible for the jury. So don't be afraid to experiment with different setups, different arrangements of light. Everything you can do to get that good piece is going to just pay dividends when it comes time to applying for shows. And now for the question of the day. If you're an artist, what kind of photography tips and tricks have you come up with to make your pieces look the best? We would love to hear from you. And as always, if you have any feedback for us, definitely hit us up in the comments, like us and subscribe, and check out all of our social media links, Facebook, Instagram, and definitely our Etsy store. Thanks for watching.